Travel Journal of Beaumont Sinclair, June 28th to July 1st, 1876. We set out from Seraphim this morning in search of Lucy Hancock. We believe she has been taken to Holm's Hill by some vile servant of the Man in Black. We heard a rumour that there is a man in the area named Murdoch who has discovered clues to a hoard of treasure hidden deep in the desert. As we travelled, we found a man named Murdoch in a campsite while travelling through the desert, and he told us if we were to assist him in his treasure hunting, we would be greatly rewarded. We didn't have much time to waste. We helped him scavenge for a little while, but we couldn't find anything. And as we pressed on, after we had left Murdoch far behind, Torinobu and I both realised that while we had been busy digging, Murdoch had been robbing us and had been stealing cash and darkstone from our saddlebags. With that unpleasantness out of the way, we made our way to Fort Lopez and stayed at the campsite there for the night. The next day was bright and sunny, and we had easy going along the trail. The next day, the clouds opened up, and a torrent of rain bore down on us, turning the ground to mud and made the going slower, so we had to stop at Flam's Folly to rest. The next day, however, the skies had cleared, and it was bright and sunny, and we rode the rest of the way to Holm's Hill with no problems. Night falls as Beaumont and Torinobu finally make their way to Holm's Hill in search of little Lucy Hancock. Her father, no doubt worried sick, Swampy sniffs the ground and barks in affirmation that the girl is nearby.
Lucy Hancock is here. We must move quickly if we are to save her, Beaumont-san.
Don't worry, Torinobu, old boy. We'll save her all right, but we best be careful. This is Injun territory around here.
Then I suggest we proceed with a hasty caution.
Beaumont heads towards the mine entrance, stopping momentarily to check the surrounding hills, paranoid that some tribe is lying in wait, watching them. Torinobu overtakes the gambler and heads into the mines. Upon entering, he's immediately greeted with the sight of a gigantic dark stone boulder. A massive chunk of dark stone rests here, half buried in the floor. All around the room, mutated corpses of miners and bandits lay rotting, killed by the corrupting radiation and their own greed. As Torinobu looks at the stone, he can't help thinking,
these fools were all just too weak, but I bet I could dig that out. I would be rich. No, what am I saying? But maybe I could just chip off a shard or two.
Torinobu cannot help himself, his spirit weakened by the corrupting influence of the Darkstone. He chips off a shard from the giant boulder, but luckily he does not succumb to the fatal greed of the less fortunate souls who litter the ground around the giant glassy boulder. But as Torinobu works busily, chipping off shards of the Darkstone, he hears Beaumont outside call, "Torinobu, look out! It's the bloody Injuns! They've found us!" The warning comes just in time as a trio of the deadly Ghost Warrior tribe descend from the hills around the mountains, whooping and hollering as they launch themselves at the would-be heroes. The strange native tribe seem to jitter in and out of existence, their white-painted bodies phasing in and out of view. One of them, armed with a long spear, thrusts it at Beaumont. The gambler steps aside just in time to avoid the worst of the damage as the blade leaves a long shallow cut down his side. "You bloody rapscallion," he says, levelling his dark stone shotgun and squeezing the trigger. The shotgun almost flies out of Beaumont's hands as the power of the Darkstone coursing through the weapon amplifies its power. The Ghost Warrior doesn't stand a chance as the buckshot blows half of his head off and leaves him in a pile on the ground. Torinobu's warrior skills allow him to deftly sidestep the attack by the ambushing Ghost Warrior. He counters with vicious slices of his swords. Slashing the Ghost Warrior into bloody ribbons and leaving his attacker rolling around in the welter of his own gore. Meanwhile, the final ambusher swings at Swampy with his hatchet, but the plucky little dog is too quick, and the frustrated native cannot land a strike on him. Seeing his opportunity, Swampy rushes the ghost warrior and leaps at him. Biting into his wrist, the ghost warrior cries out in pain and drops his hatchet. The angered tribesman rushes to pick up his tomahawk and sets his sights on Torinobu, ignoring the dog. He rushes the samurai, and the axe bites into the flesh of Torinobu's shoulder, but luckily the samurai's Jargono armor takes most of the force out of the strike, and the tomahawk embeds itself in the thick scales of the armor. The ghost warrior struggles to pull it free.
That was not very wise,
says Torinobu, raising his katana. The headless body of the ghost warrior crashes to the ground, twitching as blood pumps from the stump of its neck. I bloody knew there'd be some of them ready to attack us, says Beaumont, pilfering Darkstone from the corpses of the fallen ghost warriors.
Let us keep moving. There is no time to waste.
Beaumont checks on Swampy, while Torinobu moves ahead, passing the Darkstone boulder and moving through another doorway, leading deeper into the mines. He finds himself in an enormous chamber with golden glowing ethereal light emanating from cracks in the wall. As he enters the room, time seems to distort and twist all around him. In the far wall, beams of golden light pour through holes carved in the stone, and a sense of purpose washes over Torinobu. He grits his teeth with renewed vigor and gets the distinct feeling that the darkness recedes from this place. But before he can even begin to consider the respite that this room might offer, he hears the bone-chilling rattle and hiss of something stirring in the corner of the room. A giant three-headed rattlesnake rises up, hissing and spitting its venom, preparing to protect what is no doubt its domain. Torinobu begins to choke and cough as the Darkstone Hydra's venom settles in the air and forms into a suffocating mist that permeates the entirety of the glowing chamber. He thinks better of taking on this creature on its home turf, and instead retreats back into the room with the Darkstone boulder, preparing himself for a fight if it chooses to follow. For a moment, Torinobu thinks the snake will let them be, but then Beaumont charges forward and sees the gigantic three-headed monstrosity. "What the bloody hell is that?" he says, and before Torinobu can even begin to warn him, he snaps his pistol out and opens fire. The bullet strikes home, but seems to do little more than enrage the beast. Then its gigantic bulk slithers forward at lightning speed. Its trio of heads lash out at Beaumont, enraged by his attack. Fortunately for Beaumont, he manages to duck aside and avoid any of the strikes. Meanwhile, Swampy, desperate to defend his master, leaps at the snake and clamps its teeth around the hardened scales, but the poor dog finds itself unable to penetrate the armoured scales and quickly retreats. Before the Hydra can ready itself to strike again, Beaumont pulls out his shotgun and opens fire. The devastating blast of the Darkstone buckshot severs one of the Hydra's heads clean from the rest of its body. Torinobu wastes no time rushing in to join the attack. His swords flash with a purple glow, reflecting the Darkstone boulder. The razor-sharp edge slices clean through another of the Hydra's heads and leaves it hissing and rasping in pain and rage. His follow-up strike shears off some of the scales, but fails to sever the last head of the Hydra. But it opens a vital weak spot for Swampy to attack, and the dog does not hesitate, leaping up and sinking its teeth into the soft meat of the Hydra. And with a ferocious bite, finishes off the gigantic three-headed snake. Bloody hell, Torinobu, You're making some nice friends around here.
I don't think it was going to attack us until you decided to shoot it, Beaumont-san.
No, it was definitely coming right for us. It had a horribly angry look in its eye.
If you say so, my friend.
Well, come on, let's get moving. Torinobu continues toward another doorway in the dark stone boulder room, leading deeper into the mines. He finds himself passing into an ominous tunnel with several exits. Swampy barks with excitement, sensing the scent of Lucy Hancock. She must be nearby. One of the doorways in the ominous tunnel Beaumont recognizes as an exit leading out into the canyons surrounding the mines. He has no doubt Lucy Hancock is not that way. Instead, he heads through the northernmost exit of the tunnel, finding himself in a construction site. Meanwhile, Swampy excitedly heads towards the southernmost tunnel, no doubt having the girl's scent and following it to wherever it may lead. The dog runs into a cross passage where he takes a moment to sniff around, trying to keep the scent and lead his masters to the girl they are trying so desperately to save. Seeing Swampy head in the other direction, Beaumont realizes that he is going the wrong way, and so decides to abandon his exploration into the construction site. Despite the floor of the room being covered in gold and trinkets, he considers moving further inside, but then his head begins to spin as he marvels at the treasures just waiting to be taken and the bones and skulls that lay just beneath. Beaumont steels himself and ignores the promise of treasure, turning back to continue on his more noble cause. Swampy senses something dark and foreboding up ahead. For a moment, the hound considers deserting its masters and fleeing to safety, but then it remembers how they saved it from that horrible, dark jungle and helped it find its way home. He decides he will be a good boy and stay with them until the end, whatever that may bring. Beaumont makes his way back from the construction site and passes Torinobu as he makes his way towards the cross passage where Swampy has once again caught the scent of the kidnapped girl. It looks like Swampy's got the scent now. It won't be long before we find her. Come on, Torinobu, let's keep moving.
Yes, of course,
says the samurai, picking up the pace to catch up with their loyal hound. Swampy follows the scent through the westernmost passage, and the little dog finds himself emerging into a campsite. Beaumont and Torinobu hurry to catch up and are puzzled by the sight that greets them. Who the bloody hell would camp in the middle of a mine like this? Says Beaumont. His question is quickly answered as a black-robed man turns towards him, his shadow flickering in the light of the campfire. For a moment, Torinobu thinks it is Akuma no Jin, but then realizes it is merely one of his servants, like those they fought back in Seraphim.
You are a servant of Akuma no Jin. You will pay with your life. Now tell us, what have you done with Lucy Hancock?
I'd tell him if I were you, you bleeding lickspittle, or you'll feel the sharp edge of his blade. The black-robed man laughs mockingly.
You came here to save the girl. How very noble of you. You must be the town heroes. But she's gone. She's already gone. She will be with the Shadow King by now, and that means there is no saving her.
Then we have no reason to keep you alive,
says Torinobu, stepping forward and drawing his sword.
Oh, you don't know the powers you mess with, you foolish mortal.
The robed man steps aside to reveal behind him a moving, shifting shadow that quickly grows to encompass the entire campsite. The previously roaring campfire now seems like nothing more than a guttering match flame in the presence of this shadow.
You fool! You led them to me!
The shadow speaks in a sinister whisper.
You will pay for your mistake with your worthless life, you worm.
The robed man looks horrified.
But, master!
Before he can protest any further, the shadow engulfs him in a black shroud, and before the eyes of Beaumont and Torinobu, the wicked cultist burns instantly and intensely. Within the blink of an eye, he is nothing more than a pile of blackened ash.
I will raise an emissary for you to play with from what is left of that useless lump,
says the shadow, before dissipating and leaving the campsite once more illuminated by the fire. To the horror of Beaumont and Torinobu, the pile of ash suddenly begins to coalesce and form into a large black puddle on the floor. Soon, it takes on the consistency of a thick, sticky tar and begins to bubble and boil as a strange, magical light begins to fuse it into hardened rock. Within moments, the pile of ash takes on a shoddy semblance of a man made of stone. Through the cracks, lava courses and glows with malevolent light. Beaumont realizes that beyond the threshold of sight and sound, ancient and terrible things dwell, waiting to awaken and begin the harvest of the world. His mind burns as it races through the events that led him to this fate, this one doom, and the untold horrors that await. The once human lava man sets its sight on the trio, and from the giant opening in what Beaumont presumes is its face, it vomits forth a gout of burning lava directly at him. Beaumont dives out of the way, narrowly avoiding being incinerated. You want to play that game, do you? Well, take this, Beaumont says, his holdout pistol in his hand in a flash. The shot punches directly into the creature's giant mouth, and it stumbles back, roaring in pain, if such a creature feels pain. Before it can recover, Beaumont draws his shotgun and silently begs for the favour of Lady Fortune. He loads one of the dark stone shells, the words "Ace in the Hole" carved into its brass casing. He opens fire on the magma monstrosity. And doubles down, pulling the other triggers for good measure. The massive cluster of dark stone pellets smash into the lava man's stone body and sink into its magma blood. The lava coursing through the creature begins to grow brighter and hotter until finally the explosion of the creature leaves the corner of the campsite engulfed in flames. What the bloody hell was that thing?
I do not know, but it seems there are demons in this place, beyond our understanding. We must continue our search for Lucy Hancock. She must be somewhere nearby.
I'm not sure, Torinobu. From what that chap said, I don't think there was anything we could have done to save Lucy, and now I get the horrible feeling that that demon wants our souls too. As if to confirm Beaumont's theory, in the darkness of the mines, they hear a soft, guttural laugh as a supernatural wind whips through the cavernous room. Then, in the darkness, they hear them, the horrific monstrosities that have been terrifying the entire county, spilling forth from the darkness. It seems the Shadow Demon has summoned more of its emissaries, and they are coming right for Torinobu and Beaumont. Swampy barks nervously. Yes, I think you're right, boy. We should get the bloody hell out of here.
No, Beaumont-san. We are the only thing that stands between these monstrosities and the townsfolk of Brimstone County. We must brace ourselves and prepare to stop this onslaught.
You never change, do you, Torinobu?